Hey, Nicole.
Hi.
What's new with you?
Nothing at all in life.
Not one thing.
I'm rewatching The Princess Bride. It's very good.
Ooh, on what network? Wait, that's not why we're here. Tell me about your new podcast,
YouTube.
Nicole.
I started a new podcast. It's called The Secret Adventures of Black People.
Really? But
Yeah.
I didn't know black people had secret adventures. I thought they only had pain and struggle.
We do have secret adventures, but the secret adventures are anything that's happening that is not pain and struggle. It's a storytelling podcast. It's very short. The idea is, when you're walking by a window and somebody for some reason has left the window open, you get to peek in for a minute. The idea of this show is that you get to peek in on the lives of Black people, doing things that don't rise to the level of national news. So it's not we're being killed or we're being tortured by this country in some way. It's everything else that happens to us. We sit by our parents' hospital beds. We explain dating to our aunts. We fall in and out of love. We hang out with our friends. It's all of the normal things that happen to us. But I make it really dramatic because in my head, when I pass by that window and I see people just living their lives, I create a drama in my mind. So that's what I've done with these secret adventures.
That sounds amazing. And full disclosure, I've listened to every single episode. It is riveting and excellent work. How many episodes do you have out right now?
7. You've listened to all 7?
I listen to every single episode.
Really?
Yes.
Even the 7th one?
Did the 7th one come out today?
It came out on Tuesday.
Wait a minute. All right, hold on. Nah, I feel so self-conscious now. I'm like,
You
I'm almost
should.
positive I have. But you're like, really? Even the 7th one? Like, I was not expecting you.
It came out this
Like
week.
this. The Secret Adventures of Black People, Meeting of the Mind. No, I did not listen to the 7th one.
I'm curious to hear what you...
Okay, well then I will go back and listen to the 7th episode and every other episode of The Secret Adventures of Black People, which is available now everywhere I get podcasts.
Everywhere.
Amazing. And now, let's start the show. What's up, everybody? It's Ronald here with another episode of Spare Time Well Spent. It's been a little while since we've done one of these, so just a reminder that this is a bonus episode. For instance, I'm sure many of you who eat meat enjoy chicken. Well, this episode is giblets. Giblets, which at first glance seem inconsequential to something like a breast or a thigh, but if you boil giblets, you get a good stock or a good gravy, or you can fry them up and douse them in hot sauce for a tasty snack. That's what this episode is. It's not quite chicken dinner, but definitely edible, and in some cases, enjoyable. I'm gonna stop describing it before I talk you out of listening. Today's Spare Time is a discussion I had with Rosebud Baker. She's a comedian and actor based in New York. She was featured on the Amazon Prime series Inside Jokes, which is a reality series that featured comedians that were preparing for and performing in Montreal's Just for Laughs Comedy Festival. She's opened for and toured with comedians such as Amy Schumer and Michael Che. I actually saw her open for Michael Che and enjoyed her so much, I went to her headline show when she came to the DC Improv. She's very funny. And she's what most in show business would call a star on the rise. Rosebud currently hosts 2 podcasts. Devil's Advocate, where she interviews other comedians and finds the funny in their worst experiences, and Find Your Beach, a comedy chat podcast that she started on the first day of pandemic with her fiance, quarantine buddy, and fellow comedian Andy Haynes. During our discussion, we talked about Rosebud's path to comedy, her experiences being a woman in comedy, PC culture in comedy, and a surreal moment she had with Amy Schumer. Now, word of warning here, in the second half of this interview, there is some cursing that I've left unbleeped. So if you have children with you or are listening on a speaker, this is your warning. So let's get to the interview.
I reached a point in my life where I was like, okay, well, I don't have any pride left. So I don't have anything to lose by getting on stage and embarrassing myself. Because at that point, my life was sort of an embarrassment. The year before I started comedy, I was in a relationship with a guy who was an alcoholic. The way that you could study him as like an alcoholic, like a medical problem. I'm talking unmanageable addiction. And I was sober. I was sober about 6 years. I did not know when we started dating that he was like a chronic relapser. And by the time that he did relapse, we were already kind of enmeshed. So I was really kind of managing and navigating this for the first time, and also realizing that I had severe codependency issues. So the way that this relationship ended was pretty violently, and I ended up having to get change the locks on my apartment, call a parent, which was embarrassing because, any woman who's like been in an abusive relationship knows that it's just, even though you don't, I guess there is some degree of blaming yourself because you just get so embarrassed about the fact that you're in this position in the first place. And you're like, I'm a smart woman. I don't understand how I got here. I was an actor. I hadn't really worked a lot. I was doing these like bit parts, non-union gigs, had no representation. I decided I don't want to be an actress anymore. I just want to do something else that doesn't have to do with me. Maybe I'll be a social worker or a dog trainer or something like that. Anyways, I had no plan. And I was mid-20s. I was like, I'm too old to not have a plan. I'm too old to like start over. That's what I thought. And it's not true. But I called up a friend. I was like, I think I'm thinking about being a dog trainer. He was a comedian, and he was like, you would be a horrible social worker. You would be a terrible dog trainer. And he was like, you should try telling jokes, because you're always sending them to me and I'm not interested. And I just thought, okay, I'll try it. I ended up going to my first open mic while I was on this cross-country trip with a best friend of mine. I tried comedy. I tried stand-up. I got off stage after my first laugh, which actually, looking back, is like pretty good instinct. And that was enough to get me back to a second open mic in New York. And I did okay enough that I just kept going every night. I just got sucked in. Like I did this every single night, several times a night, keeping it a secret from my family, and just like a heroin addict. Like I was just like, this is just something that I do. It's fine. Nobody needs to know about it. Like it was really sort of what an addict does when they find their thing, when they pick their poison. So it was just, in this case, it wasn't harmful. I think the real moment that I realized I was a comic was the same moment that I realized it's too late to go back to a regular life. The first couple of years in comedy, it's you and all your friends, and you're like this family. And then you each get a certain degree of success, and you just like stop seeing each other. You're all on the road. it's just you and your jokes, and it's so lonely and it's so bad. And if you still love it and you still want to do it, I think that's the point at which you realize, okay, I'm a comedian. I'm not just like a person that found a friend group that I dug, you know?
So I would describe your sense of humor as a little dark, which typically I'm not into, but you surprised me with how funny some of your bits have been. One of my favorites is the one where you start talking about the death of your pets. So first you start talking about your cat, and then you start talking about your dog. And then
it's like, okay, so I had to put my cat down, which, yeah, it's sad, I know. But she slept 22 hours a day, so it's like 2 more hours. So, who gives a shit? She's doing what she loves, you know? Honestly, least of my problems. Truly. Like, normally when you put down an animal, not that I do it every day, but like, normally you can sense when their soul like leaves their body. But with a cat, the only way to tell that it's dead is that it's letting you hold it. I was like, does she like me? Oh, no, she's gone. She's... and dogs are better, right? Like, yeah, like it's not even a debate. And, because they'll love you no matter how big a piece of shit you are. They really will. Like, dogs are the only beings that are grateful enough to look at a pile of vomit and go, there's still food in there. I can make that work. And I need that. I need someone to do that with my personality, okay? And I know that dogs are better than cats because 6 months after my cat died, my fucking dog died. Yeah, and I would have snapped my cat's neck to save my dog. And if you're a cat person and you think I'm a monster, just know I would have snapped your cat's neck to save my dog. I don't give a fuck about your feline. All right? Losing a dog, that's harder than losing certain relatives. It is. Because, like, listen, if my uncle died tomorrow, like, yeah, I'd be sad, but he was kind of racist. Like, my dog never said Orientals.
Yeah. I guess people do think of it as dark. I just sort of see it as, like, I don't know. Sometimes I wonder if my comedy's dark or if it's just that it's coming from me, you know, that it's coming from my face. And so people go, wow, that's dark, because it's in comparison to, like, it's coming from a person that looks like she would babysit your kids. So I think that's why people kind of go, oh, it's so dark. But I'm like, if Jim Norton was saying it, you know, I guess it would still be dark, but people wouldn't be as surprised by it. I've been asked, like, what it's like to be a woman in comedy so many times, and I kind of always say the same thing. I don't know what it's like to be a man in comedy. So I would say that my experience is just, I would almost say that it's the same as a guy's, but I think the only difference is, like, there are moments where, like, you can tell somebody wants to bring you on the road because they want to fuck you, and then you know, you're like, oh, I'm with somebody, and then all of a sudden the offer disappears. Or like you have you have a good rapport with somebody, and then you find out that what they were looking for was something different, and you're like, oh, okay, but it's ultimately, I feel like my experience has kind of been pretty much good. I don't have a ton of stories where, like, I've been harassed by some comic coming up. I don't have, like, and if I did, here's the other thing. If I did, I wouldn't fucking talk about it because the fact of the matter is, if I were to talk about it, that would be putting my career in jeopardy. And so I think that's the main difference. Is it's like, yeah, you can call this shit out, but you got to be willing to go, oh, am I ready to walk away from comedy because I opened my mouth? And that's the part that's male dominated. Comics have been complaining about PC culture since the beginning of time, right? When really, PC culture is our greatest challenge. It forces you to get more creative. If you want to make a joke that's, walks on the edge, you got to hit both sides to make it funny, right? Like, somebody came at me on Twitter the other day saying that my joke about David Duke, I have a joke where I called David Duke's cape gay. And they said it was homophobic. And I was like, okay, first of all, this joke is funny. I'll stand by that joke forever, because at least I'll stand by it now anyway, because I'm making fun of David Duke, who's like the most homophobic person. And I'm like, well, you're wearing a cape and your job title is Grand Wizard. It's the gayest job title that there could possibly be. If there was, they should have a Grand Wizard of the Pride Parade. I don't think it's my job to be right. It's my job to be funny.
So you said something on Twitter that I liked and shared on my timeline that I want to mention here. And it was, Happy Juneteenth from me and every other white lady who learned about it on Atlanta. In context, I think that's a perfect example of you hitting at both sides.
I kept being like, oh, fuck, I want to make fun of white women for the way that they're reacting to this shit. But so much of what they're doing, I'm also guilty of. So I got to wait until there's a moment where I can hit myself and them at the same time. And Juneteenth was like it. I was like, okay, this will be it. But it's tough. Like, one thing I have to say, like, with BLM and everything that's happening right now, as a comic and as a white woman comic, it's really tough. It's really tough to write jokes about this. And because you come up against your own desire to distance yourself from your own racism, from your own conditioning, from your own, so like, and you can't do that as a comic. You have to be straightforward. You got to be honest. You got to dig through your own trash. I had just gone through this breakup with my ex, and it's like 2 nights after we'd broken up. I was sleeping at my sister's place, and I wake up, I'm in the middle of the night, I'm just sitting there, I'm like scrolling Instagram, and I get this DM and it says Amy Schumer. And I was like, great. And cause I just figured it was like a fake, whatever. And I look and I was like, no, this is Amy Schumer. And she was like, hey, I just saw your stuff. I think you're so funny. I'm sorry I didn't know who you were. And I was like, what? Sorry. I was like, why the fuck would you know who I am? And she was like, would you want to meet up tomorrow in New York? And I was like, yeah, I want to meet up. And like, she was like, okay, well, you can meet me at wherever. I think we met at like one of those like French bakeries that I can't say their name because I'll just sound like an idiot. But and I met up with her. I like ran there because I knew that I wasn't going to be able to make it because I had to do a podcast, and I was like doing this podcast and it was going long, and I was like, I gotta fucking get out of here. And I couldn't tell anybody why I was leaving because I was just like, this, I don't even know what this is. And I don't even know if this is real. Like, it was like one of those things where I was like, this can't even be real. Like, there's no way that this is actually happening. So I wouldn't tell people like what it was. And So I ran up to meet her. I get there and she's sitting there. She's pregnant. She'd just thrown up in the bathroom, and she shows me this video of her barfing in the bathroom. And I was like, this feels right. Like, this feels like Amy Schumer. And she asked, she was like, you're so funny. I really want to help you. Like, if there's anything I can do, just let me know. And she really has been, it's crazy because the amount of shit that Amy Schumer gets is so fucking insane. And she's truly been the most generous, kind, and supportive comic to me. And I just I'll never stop appreciating her, because that was really one of the worst moments of my life. It was like my cat died, my dog died. I'm sitting on my sister's couch. My boyfriend and I are breaking up. I thought we were going to get married. And all of a sudden she reaches out, and then she takes me on tour. And I was like walking out on stage to her audience in this huge fucking theater. It felt like fucking skydiving. It's tough with everything that's happened with the quarantine. And the main thing that I want to do is just start to work again. So right now I'm performing in parking lots. I'm just taking what I can get and working on the jokes that I have. I do set goals for myself. I'm kind of in this bracket of up and coming comics. And ultimately, I'd like to get to a point where people think of me as one of the best comics working. I want to be working all the time. I want to be going back and forth between New York and LA. And I want to live, my dream. I want to keep living my dream.
Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for asking me. This is fun.
If you want to learn more about Rosebud, you can follow her on Twitter and Instagram at Rosebud Baker, or go to her website, rosebudbaker.com. Rosebud's tour dates have been postponed due to COVID-19, but you can hear more of her jokes and wits on her podcasts, Devil's Advocate with Rosebud Baker and Find Your Beach, available everywhere you can find podcasts. Today's episode is a production of OhitsBigRon Studios, with editorial support from Lizzie Peabody and music from the mysterious Breakmaster Cylinder. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at OhitsBigRon. That's at OhitsBigRon. Also, for more information on the show, you can go to the newly revamped OhitsBigRon.com. That's OhitsBigRon.com, which has information about our sister shows like Leaving the Theater and Talking Loud and Saying Nothing, as well as a link to our Patreon, which is the best way you can help OhitsBigRon Studios continue to grow. Again, that's OhitsBigRon.com, then click on the button that says Patreon. Thank you so much for listening. You'll be hearing from me again very soon.